Hi, welcome to a special extra edition of the Inner Loop. I'm Howard Marlowe, and my co-host Marlowe Willis is sitting by my side.
Welcome.
We're here to talk about the debates, or as you would call it, the non-debate last night.
Well, you're already starting.
Well,
I haven't even said anything.
No, you standing in for President Obama? He didn't say that much either. Okay. Well, I'm trying to switch roles to get you to...
Now we know you were hitting on Clint Eastwood a little bit a few weeks ago because you said the empty chair, but last night, I think it was right on.
Which was right on?
The whole empty chair scenario.
I see.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, okay. I'm with you. So Clint's still, I should still have him on my favorite list.
You should, yes.
Okay. Well, let's get into it.
At least he ought to be more understood now.
Let's hope so. He makes enough money to be understood. And more than the president, and maybe not as much as Mr.
Or
Romney.
you, but you know.
Well, yeah, that's true. Okay, what was to be gained from a standpoint of what was to be gained from the debate?
Right.
Before the debate, what was at stake?
Well, Romney had to become a person, and he hasn't done that since the Republican convention. That was something that he really, I thought, did well there. Not completely. And the Democrats have been really going after him over the last few weeks, few months, really bashing him as, he's this ultra-rich conservative guy who's out of touch with reality. Last night he had to come across as somebody who could understand everybody, not just the upper 3% or just the lower folks. He had to understand everybody. I think he did that last night. He really touched on a lot of issues that relate to the everyday person.
Well, I think number one, what was at stake in this event was the fact that if Mr. Obama could hold his own against the challenger, then he would have been viewed as the winner.
Well, all he had to do, I think he went in thinking, I just don't have to lose. If I can, like you said, hold my own, we're good. We walk out of this winning. Okay. And I don't think he held his own at all.
No, I don't think so either. I think we agree on the fact that this was a president whose not only words, but the body language and the looking down and all of that stuff just did not work well at all.
Right.
But having said that, the format was also a kind of a crazy format. It's sort of like, let's take this issue, and was it supposed to be the economy?
The economy.
But really people used it for everything that they wanted to.
But it was all economy, though, for the most part. I think you're right. I think Obama tried to hit on several issues. I think he had talking points that he wanted to go in to make sure that he hit those, but they didn't seem to flow with this format.
Yeah, he never seemed to get into a rhythm. There were a couple times that he picked up, and the words came out as if, this is what I've said. Here's my stump speech, and now I'm giving you paragraph 16 out of my stump speech.
Right.
I obviously didn't practice along with him, but nevertheless, but most of the time he was umming and ahhing like I do. And he's president.
Nobody ever hears that, though.
I have an editor that cuts it out. Well, a lot of people heard his. So I think on that sense, that's true. I think there was a lot of, Mr. Romney had figures out the wazoo. He really had crammed for this thing. As I told you before, set a new standard for college students who really need to, overnight, be able to come up with everything.
Well, did he cram, or does he know this stuff? Was this him actually getting to be him? Because, as you know, every campaign has people behind the scenes that just before you go up for your stump speech, this was said, we need to hit these points here, we need to do this. Has he been doing so much of that now when he finally gets to step up and say what he knows in front of a crowd for 90 minutes, and there's not a lot of people, this isn't a 15-minute or a 10-minute little give my spiel and walk off. He has to argue against what somebody else is saying live right there without all these, little people giving voices. So he didn't have anything in the air. Right, yeah.
Yeah, like we have now.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so... Yeah, I don't doubt the fact that he at least remembers numbers. The issue is, does he know the facts? And there were a number of things that came out that I just don't understand why Mr. Obama didn't challenge him on. This 716 million, billion, whatever it is that was going to be laid on Medicare. You and I have been over that in our shows. It's not real.
Well, it is real if you don't understand the process. Here's what.
So if it's ignorant, if you're ignorant, it's real.
Well,
okay,
because
No, that's okay. You don't have
Well,
to say
no,
that.
what I'm saying is you and I both know that Congress will always come in and fix problems like that.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, if you look at it black and white law, the way it's written, that 716 billion or million, it's gone.
Right.
And until Congress does step in, now we all believe that will happen.
Because it has in the past,
Right.
actually.
And so because we believe that will happen, it sort of seems like, well, that's not a real number because we know Congress will come
But
back
it's also
and
in
fix
the
it.
Ryan budget, and the two of them in the same place. I understand Mr. Romney has said it's not the Ryan budget that
Right.
he's doing, but nevertheless, if you're going to be proposing something, you're going to have that $760 million there, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat right now.
Well, and the other thing, too, is, again, like you said, this is not the Ryan budget. This is Romney's plan. So he may have picked Ryan, but you're not saying I adopt everything Ryan ever said.
No, and I don't, for all of the words and the facts that came out, I don't think that they necessarily laid out a vision of here's what I'm going to do that is different
Right.
from what you have done. And I'm perfectly in agreement. Mr. Obama, President Obama, did not say, well, here's what I'm going to do in my next 4 years. The last 4 haven't gone so well. They're not all my fault because the economy is the economy. And we've been doing the best we can to pump it up. Question, was he doing the best? But that's up to the voters to decide. I don't think either one of them enunciated really what their view is. I think those of us who are inside the Beltway, I think that we felt that there were clearly issues that we could say, and then,
Right.
we understood that. But I think a lot of folks out there, if they were not already decided, I don't know that last night's debate made a change in that.
Well, I think, to me, as a small business person, looking at last night, I came away determined this president has no clue what it means to run a business.
And you think that because...
And I say that because when he talked about, well, if you make over $250,000 a year, we're raising your taxes. I've said that from the beginning. This is how it's going to be. Well, Romney hit on this barely, and I wish he had done a lot more because I think he could have really awakened a lot of people. Because when he said that $250,000, we're going to raise your taxes, and then he went into, well, and corporations and small businesses are our friends, and we're going to, help them hire people. He didn't make that connection that those small businesses he's talking about and wanting to help and cut their taxes, a large majority of them are the folks who are filing a personal income tax for their business, and of course it's over $250,000, but that's not their income.
You and I have agreed before that his understanding, or at least his verbal method of understanding, what is affecting this $250,000 cap.
Right.
Above that, you're super rich, and below that, you're normal.
And, well, hang on. One thing I do want to do for our listeners and our viewers today is to explain, because a lot of them may not know either.
Okay.
Because they may be just employees or having done whatever, and it's a little bit different for them. But as a small business, if you make $250,000 as a small business, as a small business owner, right?
Yeah.
You hope that's not a lot of money when you run a business, even if you're a 7-Eleven in a small town.
You got high-priced talent like this, man. Costs a lot of money.
Or wherever you are. You hope to make $250,000 because you want to hire employees. But think about it. If you have 4 employees that make $25,000 a year, that's a very small amount for any business, I think. That's $100,000 that you're paying just in employee salaries. Then you've got $100,000 that you have to live on and run your business. That's $200,000 there. So that's not a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean,
and as a small business person, when you file your taxes, you not only file for the business, but that is your personal income tax return. That's what I don't think the president understands, is that when he says $250,000 or above, we're going to raise your taxes because you don't need a tax break. Well, what he's saying is we're going to raise your taxes, and businesses are saying, well, then I'm not going to hire people. I may lay off people if you're going to raise my taxes. That is tied to jobs. He doesn't grasp that. Romney did a horrible job, I think, of going after that and explaining that. He hit it one time, but it was probably 3 sentences that he did it in a matter of 30
let's
seconds.
talk about what wasn't talked about, or what wasn't talked about well.
Yeah.
The 47% thing. You started out by saying that Mr. Romney had all of this empathy he was showing for the non-rich. Well, Mr. Obama never raised the 47%, and the spin doctors afterwards said, well, everybody knows about that. We didn't have to bring it up. I don't know why he didn't bring it up.
Well, I think there may be a fear there when you start going down that path, that the new old video that just came out with Obama talking about we got to protect our people and we should be putting federal dollars into our communities, then you got to start talking, what does that mean then? Because I think if you give Romney an opportunity to explain the 47%, I think he can be a lot more articulate than he was in a private setting with people that he was raising money from. And one thing that keeps coming out in the press is, oh, he's saying he doesn't care about that 47%, when really it's, I'm not going to get their vote. That's the argument.
Come on, you're saying, though, that his remarks in his environment of 47% remark has to be understood because he was trying to raise money. Mr. Obama's remark prior to the time he was president and where he was before, quote, his people, somehow should be taken more literally.
Oh, no, not at all. Sense. What I'm saying is that if you go down one path, then Obama has to come back and explain his if that's attack too. And rather than having to do that, I think it's a lot easier to not explain those two things, to stay away from those issues.
The other thing which I think I was surprised that did not only come up, but it was just omnipresent, was health care, which everybody now apparently has accepted the fact that you call it Obamacare. It used to be only the opponents, but even Mr. Obama is using that. Okay. I don't think, one, that he did a good job of explaining it.
Who's that?
He being the president. It's his plan, or it's at least the plan that he's embraced.
Right.
And I don't think he did a good job of that and really bringing that home to people like me and other folks who work here as to what it means. And this premium raise, now I'm worried about it. Is it going to come to $2,500 a person? It will not, because I know what our premium, is going to be for next year because we've gotten the quote for it.
Right.
And yeah, there's a bump up. There was a smidgen of a bump up last year, a little bit more this year. It's normal.
Right.
But I don't think that got across to me as something where he said, oh, no, what you're saying, Governor Romney's totally wrong. Here's what we've done, and here's why I've done it.
Well, and part of the problem is I thought that was what he actually did the best on. I thought when Obama was talking about his health care plan, that was the only time I saw him come alive and actually look like he knew what he was talking about. For the most part, on the other issues, I don't think he was there at all. But on health care, I thought he really did come out, and he tried to bring that up on several occasions when they were talking about other issues, because I think that is the issue that he feels like he can win on, is Obamacare. And so when he did talk about it, the issue that he has, though, is that a lot of it's not in place till 2014. Some of these things, the $2,500 per family, for instance, it's 2014 that you're going to see that. Not yet. So you still have some time. But how can you argue with a study or several studies?
Well, the Congressional Budget Office says this or whatever.
Right. And you don't have the numbers yet to say, well, they were wrong.
Another issue didn't come up that we've talked about before, and that is immigration. We've had it recently on the our inner loop.
Well, this was supposed to be a domestic policy debate. It turned into only an economic debate and talking about jobs, which I think is really what Romney wanted to do. And because he was doing so well and seemed to be in control, he kept that topic there for the entire time. And I thought he did great at that. Big problem I have, sequestration.
Yeah.
That was not mentioned one time.
Exactly. The other point that I want to make, the fiscal cliff, folks, wasn't discussed at all. What's coming there.
And was that the $2 trillion that Obama kept throwing in, where he was saying he wants to increase defense spending by $2 trillion and they haven't asked for it? I don't know. If it was, you had Secretary Panetta over at DOD saying, we need this money. We have to have this money, so we can't do sequestration. But I'd never had an explanation of what this $2 trillion was that Romney wanted, that Obama kept bashing.
Yeah. Let's talk about what happens from here, because it clearly was not a good night for Mr. Obama. What will they do? And we know there's another debate coming up, but what will they do outside of the debate besides just spinning and saying, oh, no, you did a great job, and Mr. Romney saying, hey, give me some more money because I'm really in the race? Well,
you're going to have now each side looking at what was said that may have been a little bit off and trying to make that into a much larger issue. One problem I see for them is if the economy is the biggest issue in this election, by far.
Yeah.
in '08, you could say it was foreign policy. That may have been an issue with the two wars going on. This time, it's the economy. If the next two debates don't touch on economy again, I think Obama's in a world of hurt. Because if he cannot have the public and the large platform to come back out and say, here's my plan and here's why Romney was wrong, and he only has these stump speeches to do it, he's not going to reach enough people. He's got to get this argument out there in a better way right now. And there's a couple of things that Romney has to do that I hope he does, and that is Social Security. The president came out and said the basic structure of Social Security is secure.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody believes that.
No,
and
so I'm trying to say yes and no. I think in the sense of the basic structure is good. Now, what is that structure? It's basically something that is also going to go away in whatever it is, 15, 20, 25 years.
2038 right now is what they're saying.
I can't count up that high. But nevertheless, you know, so for even you, the basic structure is sound.
It's not sound. It'll be gone when I get there.
Well...
And the other thing,
enjoyed it while I had it.
And the other thing that was brought up was that, and this was in an ad recently that Obama ran on Sunday during the football games, and this is something that I heard last night, is that with the savings from drawing down on these two wars, we can now invest in the local economies and doing things domestically that we want to do. You and I both know that money is all borrowed. That is not, it's not money that was in the budget that we decided to put on a war. All of that money for that war is coming from China or somewhere else.
Well, we also don't have time to get into the issues of, the issue of education that came up last night, and the like. But this is going to be fun to do this the next time also, and give our instant analysis. Before we leave, though, we want to tell our folks that we want to hear from you, and we also want you to find out more about us. Don't tune us out right now, but do tune us in at the next Inner Loop, which is broadcast every Thursday at, 1 o'clock Eastern?
1 o'clock Eastern.
And you can listen to it anytime you want to, because just like this, it's on the web. You can find out more information by going to www.aldenstreet.com. I usually spell that out, ALDENST.com. We also have, it's right behind me, our executive producer, Mally G, is informing me. And also Facebook, facebook.com/The Inner Loop. You get a lot of information. You can tweet Mr. Romney's stand-in here at what? What is your address?
The Willis Guy, twitter.com.
Bless you. And you can tweet me at HowardHDM at twitter.com. Thank you very much for being with us on this extra edition. We would look forward to listening to you and your comments, which you can get to us at info@aldenstreet.com. Thanks very much.
Thanks.